Now, look, you can't make this stuff up. Thank you, Bill DeBlasio. Thank you very much, Bill DeBlasio. Now, New York has always had its challenges, but they cleaned it up. They had cleaned the city up. So you can't always follow, well, it's New York. They had cleaned it up. It was a very relatively safe place to live in certain areas. It was a happening town. And now it's degenerated into the state it was in the 80s and in the 90s. Just a haven for criminality and a place where you wouldn't want your 85-year-old grandfather walking down the street.
Also new tonight, a heartless robbery in the Bronx. An 85-year-old man was walking down 170th Street in Claremont this morning when a woman approached him from behind. The man was knocked to the ground, and that's when the woman climbed on top of him and emptied his pockets. She got away with $7. The man is in critical condition tonight. Police continue their search for the robber.
$7. 7 smackaroos. 7 fazools. You know it's a rough city when a chick. That's a rough city. When a chick kicks an 85-year-old man's behind in broad daylight and robs him for $7. That's a rough city, Jack. If you ever, wherever you think you live at, wherever you think is tough, that's the standard. That's the barometer. Yeah, man, my city tough, man. Well, do you have a story of a chick beating up an 85-year-old man in broad daylight on a busy city street and robbing him for $7? Nah, man, we ain't got no stories like that. Well, sorry, man. Your city ain't rough. That's a day. Yikes.
New at 6, shooting victim is speaking out. 70-year-old Lydia Flores was shot by a stray bullet while riding an MTA bus in Brooklyn earlier this week. Now, one of the bullets pierced her face. Today, Flores took part in a prayer vigil against gun violence and shared a strong message of forgiveness. Eyewitness News reporter Naveen Dhaliwal has the story.
She is lucky to be alive.
She's doing much better, thank God.
Counting her blessings, 70-year-old Lydia Flores found the strength to talk just days after being shot by a stray bullet while on the B25 bus on Fulton Street in Brooklyn. One of the bullets pierced the side of her face.
And from when she noticed that she was bleeding so much, she had realized that she got hit by one of the bullets.
Today, Flores joined others at this prayer vigil against gun violence in Bed-Stuy to make a statement, to make a plea.
The community can come together and help these kids and take the weapons off the street. She's thanking God that she's alive.
What a great country. First of all, crappy city, great country. You could be 70 years old and can't speak the language. Name another country where you can make it to 70 without being able to speak the native language. Go to Mexico and try to make it in Mexico for 70 days without learning some Spanish. A lick of Spanish. A lick. She can't speak a lick of English. And she just a thriving. She ain't talking about no racism. She on the bus on the way to work. She out here thriving. Can't speak a lick of English. Yeah, go to the Philippines and can't speak no Filipino. Whatever that language is called, Tagalog or whatever it's called. What a great country, but a crappy city. When your 70-year-old woman can't ride the bus. Great country, crappy city. Now I wonder who did this to her. I really wonder. Who might have done this to this woman? I wonder who would have done this to this woman. Can't quite put my finger on it.
As far as the shooter, who police say are still on the run.
We're hearing from the woman shoved into subway tracks in Union Square with an oncoming train approaching, and it looked like certain death, but amazingly, she survived as a train rolled right over her. The attacker now charged with attempted murder. Here's Eyewitness News reporter Stefan Kim with his sit-down interview of a woman. We're hearing from the woman shoved into subway tracks in Union Square with an oncoming train approaching, and it looked like certain death, but amazingly, she survived as a train rolled right over her. The attacker now charged with attempted murder. Here's Eyewitness News reporter Stefan Kim with his sit-down interview of a woman who's shaken to the core.
Liliana Sagbaisela is still so dizzy, her head still spinning. She has no idea what hit her. Literally, no idea.
I don't remember more. I wake up later, almost 11 a.m. in the hospital. I can't understand nothing because I was very confused. My head was like that.
Does anybody in New York speak English? Just a question, man. Does any personas en Nueva York hablo inglés? Jesus.
40-year-old housekeeper sort of feels like she was hit by a train. That's because she was. That's her being shoved by a deranged maniac onto the train tracks while she was standing on the platform yesterday at Union Square. Somehow she landed on the tracks. The train made minimal contact with her as it rolled over her. She now has 8 stitches in her head.
I think here and the back.
So your shoulder, your back?
Yeah, everything. I can move too much, yeah. I can move it too much because this is too much, very hard for me.
The Sunset Park woman says when she woke up in the hospital, she thought she fainted. She never saw her assailant, doesn't remember being attacked. Cops say the man who violently shoved her from behind timed his push so she would be hit by an oncoming train. Police say the 24-year-old suspect is emotionally disturbed and homeless, charged with attempted murder, felony assault, and reckless endangerment. She's terrified of the subway now, but she says she has to move forward and will eventually ride the train again. Her 14-year-old daughter goes to high school in the city, takes the same train to the same stop. If and when in-person learning resumes, she says she's not sure if she'll take the train anymore.
I still, when I watched the video, I still can't believe that my mom was the person who...
The mother come over here, can't speak a lick of English. But live to be 70, 80 years old without learning a lick of English. Daughter go on to get a bachelor's degree, a master's degree, and make $125,000 a year in the career of her choice. While niggas gonna be sitting around talking about racism. This is why you sisters look dumb fighting with these Latinas about who's the backbone of the Democratic Party, who was more responsible for Biden winning the election. It was us, not the Latinas. But listen, when they interview your sisters, when they interview your daughters, Your daughters don't sound like this.
Sure, if she'll take the train anymore.
I still, when I watched the video, I still can't believe that my mom was the person who.
How would you feel if someone pushed your mother like that? In Sunset Park, Brooklyn, Stefan Kim, Channel 7, Eyewitness News.
Just chaos. New York paramedics, doctors, and hospital staff are overwhelmed by a surge of shooting victims in 2020. Now that's a rough city, Jack. When the paramedics, doctors, and hospital staff are overwhelmed. That's a city trending in the wrong direction. Let's use liberal language. This city is trending in the wrong direction. Good Lord Almighty. This one, I don't know who fired it. This one or the one in Philly. Of these reporters. Good Lord. Smiggity smash. But that's not why we're here. Certainly, New York City, you would be able to have a Sweet 16 party. I mean, can't ride the train. 85-year-old man can't walk down the street with $7 in his pocket. 70-year-old woman can't ride the bus without getting shot in the face. A 40-year-old woman can't wait for a train without getting pushed on the tracks. Certainly, you'd be able to have a Sweet 16 party.
Well, police in Brooklyn right now are looking for the gunman who opened fire in an apartment building. 7 people were shot shortly after a Sweet 16 birthday party in Bed-Stuy. 1 person was killed. Eyewitness News reporter Diana Rocco, she's live in Bed-Stuy with the details. Diana.
And Candace, we still have a large crime scene here this noon. More than 12 hours later, crime scene units are on the scene. And moments ago, I just saw detectives going door to door looking for surveillance video. Police now believe that this was all retaliatory from another shooting that happened earlier in the night at another location. And as you can imagine, it has drawn outrage from the community for a number of reasons. The first being that a 20-year-old woman was killed here last night. She was shot in the buttocks and later died at a local hospital. 6 other
20-year-old woman was shot in the buttocks and she later died. I hear a lot of people say, cops should shoot people in the legs. They should have shot Walter Wallace in the leg. Why they ain't shoot Jacob Blake in his leg, man? Rayshard Brooks was running away. They could have shot him in his ass. You got arteries all over the place, man. You shoot somebody in the leg, there's an artery called the femoral artery. Quick, boom. Bleed out quick. This woman was shot in the buttocks and she died.
Location, and as you can imagine, it has drawn outrage from the community for a number of reasons. The first being that a 20-year-old woman was killed here last night. She was shot in the buttocks and later died at a local hospital. 6 other people are injured from gunshot wounds. There was a large gathering here that the borough president says really should not have been taking place at 15 Albany Avenue in Bed-Stuy. A number of shots were fired outside the building, in the building's lobby, and going up to the 3rd floor. Police say it started at a Sweet 16 party earlier in the night at a different location on Liberty Avenue in Brooklyn. They were called to break up that party just before 8 o'clock, and and a 17-year-old was shot a short time later at that location. The party picked back up here at 15 Albany Avenue a few hours later, and that's when gunfire broke out just after 11.
Hold on, wait. At the first location, a 17-year-old was shot, and that ain't shut shit down. Everybody wasn't like, all right, enough for the day. Kids, come on home. I want my 16, 17-year-old in the house now. He was at a party where somebody was shot. Bring your behind in the house. Nah, just off to another location.
Party earlier in the night at a different location on Liberty Avenue in Brooklyn. They were called to break up that party just before 8 o'clock, and a 17-year-old was shot a short time later at that location. The party picked back up here at 15 Albany Avenue a few hours later, and that's when gunfire broke out just after 11:15 last night. Police say there were multiple shooters and at least 2 guns used. Here's what the borough president had to say moments ago.
A Sweet 16 should not end with bitter violence of 7 people being shot. And we need to be clear on that. And we want to renew the calls that we have made over and over again. Last night, to have 7 people shot here, a mass shooting, the desensitizing of...
Wow. They tired of you niggas, man. For years, they would never call it a mass shooting unless it was a white guy who was the shooter. I've noticed over the last couple of weeks, I'm assuming it's because of the massive violence in 2020 all over the country, they're starting to call it mass shooting when it's a black shooter.
Seven people shot here, a mass shooting. The desensitizing of this process is more than the people in this building. I believe it is also the desensitizing of how we respond. The mere fact we don't call this a mass shooting is stating that we've normalized violence in our community, and that's unacceptable.
And the woman who was killed here, the 20-year-old woman, has not yet been identified. The other victims range in age from 14 to 19. Police say they are investigating possible gang ties here, and they are still looking for at least 1 or more shooters.